Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're building towards a quorum, or the best quorum we're going to get this morning. We'll get going with session 8, which is a case study in information sharing from the Information Fusion Centre, Indian Ocean region in Gurgaon in Delhi. Today moderated again by Professor Lailufar, and we have Captain Ranendra Sawan and Lieutenant Commander Rohit, Jadhav. The captain tells me he's going to be speaking for about 5 minutes and then about 15 minutes by the Lieutenant Commander before we can open up for questions. So over to you, ma'am.
Good morning and welcome to this particular session on information sharing, and I have two very esteemed colleagues who will be talking about Information Fusion Center in the Indian Ocean region. So I'll take, because I have time, I'll take a minute to sort of share one of my area, how my fascination grew with maritime issues. So when I was presenting a paper back in 2017 in a joint forum where a former Indian Navy Chief, Admiral Sawan, he was there, and he said a very interesting thing which I still tell my students when I teach IEU fishing, that fishes in the Bay of Bengal are dying out of old age because we do not have the capacity to catch them. So this is such an interesting information, we never think about it. But what we need in this context is a collective mechanism, if we can develop that, among the littorals of the Indian Ocean region, and particularly in case of the Bay of Bengal littorals. So today, as we heard, that first presentation would be made by Captain Ranendra Singh Sawan, and and I was telling him Ranendra is a very Bengali name. It used to be used quite a few decades back, but still a Bengali name. And of course, the next presentation is by Lieutenant Commander Rohit, Jadhav. So we'll hear from Captain Sawan for about 5 minutes, and then we'll move to the second speaker.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I thank BIMRAD and the National Security College of the ANU for organizing this wonderful workshop. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll just get to the point. This session is on information sharing in the IOR, and that's not my domain. I represent a think tank called the National Maritime Foundation. We are consumers of the information. We don't share information. But be that as it may, please allow me to share a few thoughts. These are essentially questions. I'm not being prescriptive. I'm only raising certain questions. Maybe if it's worth it, we can consider. If it's not, then we can discard. So first, I would like to show this. It's not come on the screen? Yeah. This map on the screen, it shows the MSCIO area, which was also shown by Mr. I think from the NSC, the International Chamber of Shipping yesterday. This is where they report, and then we have the IFC Singapore reporting area, starts from almost just west of Sri Lanka to almost to the Pacific Ocean. This is the recaps reporting area, again somewhere around the border of Pakistan, Iran to the west, and goes on to the Pacific Ocean. And this is where the IFC IOR usually reports. They do not have a defined area of reporting, and it extends well beyond west, in fact, into the Gulf of Guinea. And now when we look at the incidents of piracy and armed robbery reported in 2024, the data of total events reported is shown on the screen. The first is IFC Singapore, then recap, and then IFC IOR. As we can see, there is a difference in the number of incidents being reported, and perhaps that is because they have a different geographical areas. So the number of incidents actually differ in each of these areas. Then we come to how they are reporting. What they are reporting. And you can see in this slide, IFCIO reports under 9 broad categories, including piracy, armed robbery, contraband smuggling, and so on. IFC Singapore reports under 8 broad categories. TRAPS stands for, I think, theft, robbery, and piracy at sea, contraband smuggling, IU fishing, and so on. And MSCIO reports under 9 categories, which most of them relate to piracy and armed robbery. They've just disaggregated these heads. When we look at categorization of maritime piracy, we can see how they are reporting, what they are reporting. So it is only maritime piracy and armed robbery. If we look at recap ISC categorization, they have made 4 categories based on the degree of violence and the economy factors. Basically, it means how many perpetrators were there, what type of weapons, knives, guns, or unarmed were they, or what kind of physical injury was caused to them. This is a subjective classification because it's really hard to make out or classify the severity of injury to a human being, as also very difficult to quantify the loss from a ship, loss of stores. So there is overlap and subjectivity. As far as IFC Singapore is concerned, they are reporting piracy and armed robbery under traps, that is theft, robbery, and piracy at sea. This is the broad heading, and they have divided into hijack, boarding, attempted boarding, and suspicious approach. IFC IOR has the same corresponding 4 heads, which is there as shown on the screen. In addition, they have further disaggregated piracy and armed robbery into kidnap, attack, sea theft, sea robbery, attempted sea theft, and attempted sea robbery. So basically, the IFC IOR is making a further distinction between piracy, which is defined under UNCLOS as something that happens on the high seas, and armed robbery, which is defined by IMO, which takes place in the territorial sea. Now, why does this matter? Does this even matter how many incidents are being reported, what is being reported, and how they are being reported? So to do that, we must look at why we are doing information sharing. What is the need to do all this? So first is obviously the safety of shipping, about which we had a session yesterday. And of course, the merchant ships are really interested in knowing what is happening, what kinds of incidents of piracy and armed robbery are happening, and they're interested in knowing that. But then there's a problem of switching areas, and as I shown in the geographical on the map, that every agency or every center has a distinct reporting area. So is a merchant ship required to monitor reports as it transits from, say, Suez to the South China Sea? Does it keep shifting or switching areas? Does it keep monitoring different areas as its voyage progresses? Also, the problem of multiple centers asking for positions and asking for updates from a single merchant ship was also brought out. The important problem is the reporting of DHAOs. As we have seen, many centers such as the recap, they do not report DHAOs. They only report merchant ships because it's the center for reporting piracy against ships in Asia. But that leads us to the question, what is a ship? So is it only a merchant ship? Is it a DHAO? Is it a fishing boat? How do you define a ship? So UNCLOS doesn't define a ship. So maybe we have to think about it. Then DHAOs are very important because these are being hijacked by pirates, especially in the Western Indian Ocean, and then used as motherships to carry out acts of piracy. And also, DHAO hijacking is just a means. It's not an end in itself. The hijacked DHAO can be used as a mothership for carrying out piracy. It can be used as a boat to land terrorists ashore, as we have seen in the case of Mumbai terror attacks in 2008. It can also be used for drug trafficking. It can be used perhaps for illegal fishing. So there are multiple uses. Hijacking is just, as I said, only a means. So there's really a difference in how we report and how we categorize these incidents. The second reason why we are doing all this is to inform policy making, so that the governments can take appropriate actions to suppress piracy and also other incidents, other maritime crimes. Now, unless we categorize this properly, suppose between 23 and 24, IFCIO reported that there was a 17% increase in the incidents of piracy and armed robbery. So this should raise alarm bells, But what happens is, when we look at the disaggregated report, the incidents of actual piracy actually have reduced, and what has increased is suspicious activity. And then we go into how do we define suspicious activity. It's only something who's come close, means made a very close point of approach, but the weapons were not sighted or not used. So this is very important. And also whether most of these incidents are happening within the territorial sea, and that is purely national jurisdiction. We don't need to be concerned internationally about those things, and we just have to empower the coastal states to do that. So it's very important that policymakers are also correctly informed. Lastly, there is a difference of terminology. And as Komodo Misbah had mentioned yesterday, that we need to get our lexicon right. So if we look at these three categories, they are not transposable. You can't just put a lot of piracy and armed robbery from a recap report to Singapore's report and Singapore's report directly to Iowa's report. Not only because of geography, but also because of the way it is classified. So I think I will stop here and hand over the balance of the presentation to my colleague. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. At the outset, I would like to thank BIMRAD and ANU on behalf of Director and the team of IFCIOR, including all the ILOs. Ladies and gentlemen, the oceans have always carried stories of trade, of exploration, of conflict, and of hope. But in recent years, the Indian Ocean region has begun telling a different story. Written in the language of non-traditional maritime security threats, unpredictable crises, and risk that rise without warning. The maritime domain is evolving not gradually but rapidly, and every actor at sea today feels that change. Across this vast oceanic expanse, merchant ships navigate routes as complex as the geopolitics around them. As maritime traffic grows, so do the shadows around it. Smuggling networks adapt, pirates group re-emerge, drones and missile strikes merchant ships, and emergencies unfold in minutes. In such a domain, no nation, no navy, and no agency can secure the seas alone. Collaboration is not a choice. It is the only anchor that holds us together. This is the very spirit in which the Information Fusion Center Indian Ocean Region was established on 22nd December 2018. A center with 15 international liaison officers and a truly global outreach, connected through 82 multinational linkages, partner nations, and maritime constructs woven together into one seamless web of maritime awareness. And through this web, IFCIOR has led countless operational responses across the Indian Ocean region. Responses that have saved lives, neutralized threats, and upheld the collective security of our region. I'll be covering few of the many instances wherein the IFCIOR has coordinated the operational responses. Shubho Sakal and a very warm good morning to all of you. I am Lieutenant Commander Rohit Jadhav, Operations Officer at IFCIOR, and today I invite you to travel with me not across the latitudes and longitudes but across stories. Stories of seafarers rescued just in time. Stories of vessels saved from disaster. Stories of pirates brought to justice. Stories that reminds us why information sharing is not an activity, it is a lifeline. Our first story begins on 25th November 2023. A routine voyage, a merchant vessel, and then a drone attack, one of the earliest seen in the Indian Ocean. A single message traveled from the Indian ILO at IFC Singapore to IFCIOR in Gurugram. Within minutes, an Indian naval warship and an aircraft were diverted at the scene of action, cutting across the sea to protect vessels 100 nautical miles away from the Indian coast. When Saimi reached India, an explosive ordnance team stood ready with Captain Philip Vautron, the France ILO, as a part of it. Every fragment of the drone debris was examined. Every threat was neutralized. This was not just a response, it was a message. In crisis, you will never be alone. Then came a story that captured a global attention, the hijacking of Malta flagged vessel MV Ruin. On 14 December 2023, the Somali pirates hijacked a Malta flagged bulk carrier of the Socotra Island. IFCIOR relayed a critical information to the Indian Navy, enabling swift deployment of its aircraft and a warship, which led to the initial rescue of the injured crew member. The vessel then maintained in the territorial waters of Somalia. But our real contribution happened quietly behind the scenes when 35 pirates on board MV Ruin decided to sail out at high seas and to hijack other vessels. Constant coordination with the company security officer, securing operational consent, obtaining the vessel's blueprint, and continuous monitoring of the vessel led to a successful integrated operation which resulted in safe rescue of 17 crew members. And you must be thinking, what happened to the pirates? The pirates were apprehended and been brought to justice at Mumbai. The next up is the hijack incident of Sri Lankan flag fishing vessel Lawrence Zaputa. A Sri Lankan flag fishing vessel hijacked off the coast of Somalia. Two ILOs, Sri Lanka and Seychelles, coordinated the operational response. The Seychelles Defence Force, in collaboration with the Sri Lankan and Indian Navy, successfully intercepted and rescued the hijacked vessel. The crew members were rescued and the threat was neutralized. In this incident, operational coordination and information sharing between the Sri Lankan and the Seychelles ILO at IFC-IOR played a key role. Not only piracy, in an anti-narcotics operation, IFC-IOR relayed a first-hand information about a suspicious drug smuggling input to the Indian Navy, which is known to be sustainably deployed in the Indian Ocean region. Hours later, one of the region's largest drug seizures unfolded. The swift response led to the seizure of 500 kg crystal methamphetamine, highlighting how IFC-IOR plays a vital role in combating illicit maritime activities through timely information sharing and coordination. Let me tell you, one message prevented millions of narcotics doses from reaching our shores. In another incident, the center was informed about an assistance required by a Malaysian flag sailing yacht BIT, and it was manned by a Chinese crew. This vessel was transiting from Sri Lanka to Thailand. The center established contact with the shipping agent to source its positional updates and also its intention. The information was conveyed to the Indian Navy, which promptly diverted an aircraft to localize the yacht and a warship to provide necessary fueling assistance. Owing to the prompt information sharing and operational coordination, timely fueling assistance could be provided to the sailing yacht BIT. IFC-IOR sourced positions, informed the Navy, ensured fuel assistance reached in time. On 24th May 2025, a call from MSC Cyprus. Our vessel is listing. The crew is panicking. The vessel was listing about 26 degrees and vessel was unable to correct it due to heavy weather. Within minutes, IFC-IOR activated a multi-agency response. Aircraft diverted, life rafts deployed, Indian Navy and Coast Guard ships raced through the rough seas, and every crew member of MSC Elsa 3 was rescued. Major fire on board Van High 503. A massive explosion, flames engulfing the cargo. Upon receipt of the distress on board MV Van High 503, the Indian Navy and Coast Guard were promptly informed for initiating response action. Both the Indian Navy and Coast Guard deployed their Dornier aircraft equipped with life rafts to carry out aerial surveillance and assess the situation. 18 survivors were rescued by the Indian Navy warship. Every update shared by the IFC-IOR shaped the rescue. On 12 June, recently, the center received an input regarding a medical emergency on board Singapore flagged tanker Eagle Veracruz, involving a crew member passing blood with increasing severity, dizziness and weakness. The center immediately got in touch with the shipping company and master, advising them to close to the coast of Kochi for the possibility of medical evacuation. Meanwhile, the Indian Navy was alerted and a naval ship and an aircraft was diverted towards the merchant vessel. Medical officer on board the Indian Navy warship was in two-way communication with the master to ascertain the vitals of the crew. Medical evacuation was undertaken by a seeking helicopter of the Indian Navy and the patient was disembarked to Kochi. The relieved master and the CSO expressed their gratitude to the IFC-IOR and Indian Navy through multiple channels. The next examples are few good examples which has the involvement of the international liaison officers and the center's linkages, not only with the multinational construct but also with shipping community. IFC-IOR received an information about a medical evacuation on board CMA CGM vessel Dana, and this was through the CSO. The vessel was continuously monitored using the newly deployed, indigenously developed IFC-IOR's Maritime Analytical Tool for Regional Analysis software, in short, the Mantra software. One of the crew members, that is the chief cook, sustained a finger injury during food preparation. Despite initial treatment, there was a significant swelling extending to his arm and required immediate disembarkation for surgical intervention. The vessel was diverted to Mombasa, Kenya. The Kenyan ILO activated the Kenya Maritime authorities. A successful evacuation followed thereafter. Another medevac situation. The center received an information from the international liaison officer and a CSO about an explosion in the cargo compartment, which led to a major fire on board MV Falcon. This is very recent, on 20th October. 24 out of 26 crew members had abandoned the ship and were evacuated by MV Veda in vicinity. There is another merchant vessel. They were escorted by EU Op Atlanta ship. The center, in close coordination with Indian Navy's mission deployed ship, coordinated the evacuation for mortal remains of 2 crew members. In addition, the Indian Navy's warship also undertook firefighting operation in close coordination with civil tug hired by the shipping company and successfully brought the fire under control. Very recent pirate attack, which was yesterday covered, but I would like to highlight few key tactical facts. On 6 November 2025, when MV Hellas Aphrodite was attacked by pirates about 560 nautical miles of Somalia, IFC-IOR quickly obtained the details from its international liaison officers and vessel details from national and international linkages. Subsequently, the center contacted the company security officer to confirm crew safety and coordinated with the Indian Navy and other operational constructs to avoid overlap in rescue efforts. The center maintained real-time communication with the CSO, updating him on the developments as the Indian Navy diverted a Pieta aircraft for localization and deterrence. The aircraft's presence reassured the crew in the citadel and likely discouraged further pirate action. Continuous monitoring and coordinated response through IFC-IOR played a key role in ensuring the crew's safety until international level forces secured the vessel. It is with immense pride I would like to highlight that the center has been pivotal in orchestrating coordinated operational responses across the region, safeguarding countless mariners and fishermen, while also enabling decisive legal action through successful pirate apprehension. But the ocean itself is changing. Conflicts in West Asia have reshaped the maritime domain. Drones and missile attacks have surged from late 2023 to October 2025. Forces have shifted and resurgence of piracy has been observed. Rerouting exposed the vessels to harsh seas, leading to wrecks and losses. With that said, maritime security is a living organism changed by geopolitics, weather, and actions far away. As this workshop is themed on building shared understanding for maritime space, I would like to conclude by saying maritime security is a shared responsibility. IFC-IOR stands as a beacon of collaboration guided by India's vision of Mahasagar, that is, mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across all regions. Together, we are not just responding to incidents, we are shaping the future of Indian Ocean. Promoting collaborative maritime safety and security in the Indian Ocean region, the Information Fusion Center, Indian Ocean region. Thank you.
It's amazing to see that he ended on the dot 00.00. Okay, so it was a fascinating presentation, nothing unexpected from you. And I was talking with another co-presenter that he demonstrated what happens when countries collaborate. Collaboration in the sea is not a choice, but it's a necessity for our collective survival. And he showed a number of case studies and particularly showing that how different countries, whenever they are at they're facing certain difficulties or challenges in the sea domain, how can the IFC actually help in real time. So I invite, we have a lot of questions. Before I could say it, I can see a hand is raised. We'll take first 3 questions and then we will go back to the presenters and then go to second round. Please. Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question about a maritime threat we haven't heard of during this conference. My country, Australia, has in the last 12 months witnessed a very disturbing maritime security threat, and that is narco submarines turning up in the Pacific, okay, submersibles. Now, what is truly revolutionary is not narco submarines, because they've been around for a while. I've been to the Narco Submarine Museum in Colombia. What is truly revolutionary is what occurred in Colombia in July this year. And that was the first time, as I'm aware, of an autonomous narco submarine, okay? They've taken the crew out. My question is, have you seen in this part of the world the deployment of submersibles or semi-submersibles for narcotics trafficking, and have you got any bright ideas of what countermeasures we could develop? Particularly, as I say, I mean, the use of autonomous semi-submersible is new, okay? It's a new development. So that is my question. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Commander Dharmasat from Sri Lanka Navy. I would like to ask my question from the Lieutenant Rohit. Rohit, during your presentation, you have mentioned a few case studies regarding the distress situations. So, how the IFC, IOR, and the MRCC Mumbai coordinate during the distress? Normally, we know that all the distress signals are received by the MRCC. So, how this IFC, IOR, and this one is responded? Thank you.
Do we get a third hand during this round? Okay.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, the presenters, for such an awakening and enlightening presentation today. I am Farzana Hogdina, working as a Senior Assistant Secretary in Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As we are actually getting enlightened by how IFC IOR works in the ocean, how they engages multiple stakeholders, partnering nations to communicate and conduct any kind of issues that happens in the high sea. So just 2 quick questions that I have. That number 1 is, how does IFC IOR ensure the accuracy and validity of maritime real data that comes from multiple countries with varying surveillance capability? The second one is, what protocol really exists in the IFC IOR for reconciling conflicting information from partner nations on commercial sources? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be answering the questions one by one regarding the narco sub. Presently, we have not monitored any specific trend in the Indian Ocean region involving the narco sub. The specific trends which we have monitored is the transshipment of drugs using small vessels and hiding of drugs and concealing of drugs in the domestic products. And recently we have monitored there has been a huge spike in amphetamine type stimulants being smuggled through the Golden Triangle. And we had made an prediction and analysis based on the historical data available at the center that generally after the turn down of the or the retreating of southwest monsoon, we see the flow of drugs right from the Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle because of the favorability of weather conditions in the Indian Ocean region. The next question is regarding coordination between MRCCs and IFC-IOR. We maintain a close linkage with the MRCCs, and whatever is there an effort which is required, we closely coordinate with them. So this was a few of the instances, but recently we had another incident of CMA-CGM vessel drifting off Andaman, wherein the vessel, being a close linkage of the IFC-IOR, reported to IFC-IOR, but they were asked to report to MRCC also to have that legal implications in place. So both MRCC, IFC-IOR and the CSO, there was a total coordination in that which led to the avoiding the drifting of vessels on one of the island areas. So that is second question. Regarding the protocol and accuracy, I think this is two questions are the same. So we have ILOs, they are the biggest trend and asset of the center, wherein they have the ability to understand the regional trends and patterns. So whatever information is published in an open source or commercial websites or anything, they reach back to their own national agencies, get the information to us, and we validate it, then the accuracy and the credibility of the information, obtaining that, then we publish it. And if the incident is coming through one of the linkages and we are not sure about this incident has happened or not, we write and request for information from particular linkage, validate it, and then publish it in our reports. So that is the mechanism in place. I hope I have also answered all questions. Thank you.
It's because of the light. I cannot see if anybody raised hands. Not yet. There's nobody? No hand? Okay. Okay.
I would like to congratulate both speakers for fantastic presentations. I think the question is for both speakers and very much relevant to the narcotics question. We have seen, either a rising trend in different types of drugs being smuggled in the Indian Ocean region. I think most concerning fact is that Yaba smuggling from Myanmar has significantly rising, and the Arakan army is banking on that drug money to run its campaigns. What kind of intelligence sharing exists between these coastal countries, bilaterally and multilaterally, and how effective is that information sharing, given the fact that this drug smuggling is continuing, not only, but also they are shifting their strategies, like moving from like the land routes to coastal areas in the low seas and the high seas. I'm just curious because I'm doing a recent study on this drug smuggling, and then I spoke with the border guard and the coast guard and other anti-narcotics agencies, and I see that last year money laundering from drug smuggling from Bangladesh was almost $500 million, and it is more than that. And I see also that India and Bangladesh both are the victims, not the consumers. So what kind of sharing is there? And also, it's quite interesting that you said that these narco traffickers in the Indian Ocean region have not used the subs yet. But are you predicting or forecasting, or are you using AI-based modeling to predict that this could be a potential risk factor? Thank you.
That is Professor Ashraf, Chairperson, Department of International Relations.
Thank you. It's not just a question, it's just an answer. I think I will help Rohit. Because I'm from Bangladesh Navy, I'm the ILO working in IFC-IOR, and I have been given with the task to look after the contraband cluster, and I'm the in charge of that. and there are more 2 officers who are assisting me in this regard. So to answer your question, yeah, that is a very pertinent question. So we have a huge flood of yaba that is actually used as a narcotics money to boost or to use for the resistance, that is Operation 1027 by the Arakan Army and others. So, see sir, previously there was a legal trade between the Rakhine state and Bangladesh, and Bangladesh used to send them the money in terms of dollar or in terms of taka by the Bangladeshi side. But later on, once the Rakhine was occupied and captured by the Arakan Army, and the government has less enforcing power on there, now there is a new trend coming up, that is barter trade. So from Bangladesh side, if you check the Coast Guard is tremendously doing a very good job. You see that previously Coast Guard used to stop whatever the drugs, especially yaba, is coming from our neighboring country. But now Coast Guard is stopping the Bangladeshi side, those who are trying to smuggle cement, then fertilizer, then all other domestic goods to them and bringing yaba in return as a barter trade. So regarding your first question, that how the information is passing. So we are looking very closely how the yaba trend is going on, or how the drugs, especially the dry ice, is going on from Golden Triangle area. So we found in Southeast Asia there was a trend in last year and this year also, that is dropping the drugs in a floating object or in a floating packet and dropping it just off the coast, and with the tide it drifts and comes to the coast. So for me, I can remember last year in December, I have reported my intelligence directorate in Naval Headquarters regarding this trend, and that another report was coming up regarding that as government has less control, and this production of yaba will be more, and that will come more to Bangladesh and other countries, neighboring countries. That information I have sent it to my Director of Naval Intelligence also, and I also share information like these type of issues to Coast Guard Staff Officer Operations and also Bangladesh Navy Staff Officer Operations, and especially I have close link with IFC Bangladesh regarding these issues. Thank you.
Very well done. Okay. Okay.
I am Assistant Superintendent of Police, Liaison Officer from Mauritius, presenting at IFCO. I just want to contribute in these conversations. It's about the traffic of cocaine in these regions. We have seen from the previous reports a trend that we have cocaine seizures in the port of South Africa, and it is being distributed in the regions. But this region didn't have a history of trafficking cocaine. Just 1 week back in Mauritius, we make a huge seizure of more than 400 kg of cocaine on one of the cargo ships. Now, this was possible because we had a tip-off from the captain of the ship, maybe there is something illegal on board the ships, and this was shared through the agents. And of course, when it came back to Mauritius, we are able to go on board with all the agency on board, and we are able to see for our eyes the manner how those drugs are being wrapped, packed, seized, and to our knowledge, it may be used also as a dead dropping at sea, the way they are packed. So I think that this region is the ship was coming from Brazil, okay, and then it was the operations were done in Mauritius. It was only done through intelligence and information sharing. This is what I wanted to add to this contribution. Thank you very much.
Can we have someone to dim the lights, please? Please, Bhai, please.
I just wanted to start with one of the questions of Professor Ashraf about the submersibles. By virtue of my tour of duty in South America for 3.5 years, and the submersibles, or whether you call it submarine or whatever, are there extensively used. Even they dared to sail from the northeastern coast of Brazil up until Italy or Portugal, for instance. They were caught, but we know when they are caught. When they are not caught, we do not know how many have passed through. This is one. Secondly, as my friend from Mauritius mentioned, and I personally feel, being one of the citizen of a victim country in Bangladesh, the Yaba, for instance, I think I would draw attention of my friend Dr. David. We might think of making sorts of proceedings to our friendly governments from our MDA heads that only out at sea, Yaba is not produced out at sea in the Indian Ocean or Bay of Bengal per se. They are being produced in some of our even friendly countries, neighboring countries. So even we need to engage the policymakers, the government, the law enforcement agencies, even that these are the things we see, IFC, IOR, or our other sister concerns in Singapore or anywhere else, they do face. And when only we notify or we have intelligence report, only then they can activate our law enforcement agencies, particularly the Navy or the Coast Guard. So gradually I'm thinking, maybe we are thinking, but then we can gradually expand our areas, horizontally as well as vertically, to engage our governments that these are the things we personally feel out at sea or in the fields. So we need to also do something to connect our expansion of our areas of working as regards to the MDA. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Lieutenant Commander Rahim is the contraband cluster in charge. We have divided the ILOs in contraband, various clusters, so he has already answered. I was about to hand him over. I would just like to add few points that we are an international center and we look at the fusion of information and relevant information reaching the ILOs and back to the parent country, which the presence of Bangladesh ILO is ensuring. We are happy to know that. We have tools and mechanism in place to monitor particular activity. We have the software with us, and so any activity which is there and the access is given to all the ILOs. So I think I need not add any more on this.
Hello, I'm Commander Corinne Bizot, working at the Regional Center for Maritime Studies in Sri Lanka. We've been talking about information sharing as events, as things happening at sea and risks and threats that we have. But another part of information sharing, and I feel that it's extremely important as well, is capabilities, assets, how to respond to those threats and etc. So my question is actually, what level of information do you have at the IFC on the actual operational centers who are intervening in the different countries, reporting or sharing information with the IFC, and their capability to respond? I know that for some of them, because of sovereignty issue, it's not possible to share, but others, even per international regulations, do have to share information. For instance, search and rescue, MRCCs and national search and rescue organizations have to be declared at the IMO, so at the international level. So my question is, how much of that information do you really have at the IFC, and how do you leverage and use that information when you're talking about operational coordination? Thank you.
So ma'am, in my presentation I brought out that we have linkages with 82 multinational linkages. So this includes the operational centers. We are in close coordination with MSCIO, the MICA Center, the UK MTO, and the various other operational centers with the regional and global outlook in the Indian Ocean region. So whatever information is there and the coordination is being done, that was being rightly, I brought out in my example of MV Hellas Aphrodite, wherein we were constant touch. The France ILO at IFCIOR was sending us update regarding the EU Atlanta ship Victoria, which was being diverted at the scene of action. And the Indian warship, the action which was happening, I was relaying it to the France ILO. So the coordination between all the operational centers is going hand in hand. And I would like to highlight that we are also part of the single information framework, and the BMP, that is Best Management Practices for Maritime Security, has a mention of IFCIOR. So we are coordinating with all the stakeholders in the Indian Ocean region. With regards to search and rescue or any MRCCs, we had specific instances of vessel being monitored by the authorities. I'll give you a case study by the Mauritius. One of the vessel was not responding to the VHF calls and the aircraft calls on the MMB channel 16. We got the information from the Mauritian ILO. We started tracking that vessel, and then we monitored that a vessel has altered course and resumed its voyage. So this information went to the Mauritius ILO and he conveyed it back to his authorities. So this is a kind of example. About leveraging the access, I didn't mention, as I said that I am mentioning a few of the many incidents. The hijacking of Bangladesh flag carrier MV Abdullah, wherein Lieutenant Commander Rahim, who is the Bangladesh ILO at IFCIOR, leveraged the access of all multinational constructs and he was able to convey the intention of the Bangladesh government to not to have any military action. So this is the leverage which the ILOs and the IFCIR has to the multinational construct in the Indian Ocean region. I hope I have answered your question, ma'am.
I think the question was, do you have any information on the assets which a particular country or center holds or commands so that they can deploy? I think that was the question.
So we don't deal with any asset coordination, ma'am. The information which comes is being relayed to all the ILOs and the linkages of the center. As we also follow the IFC Singapore module, wherein they also don't coordinate any operational asset deployment or something like this. So we don't do that, but we relate to our national and international linkages, and the action follows thereafter.
I think we are almost at the end of this session. Simon, will you take over? Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, ma'am. That concludes the session. Could we all show our appreciation the normal way? Thank you. Okay, we're moving straight into our before lunch session now with our most senior panel. This is a case study in information sharing, the Sri Lanka Navy's experience in sharing information in support of drug interdictions. So could I ask the moderator, Commodore Misbah?
We changed.
Oh, sorry, the moderator's David Brewster. Yeah. Late news, late mail. And Vice Admiral Perera, Sri Lanka Navy retired ex-chief.
Okay, look, this session I think is going to be really interesting and quite different. So we're here over these couple of days talking about information sharing, and I think a key point that we need to be thinking about is that information sharing comes in many different ways, whether it be through national fusion centres talking with each other bilaterally or with their own different stakeholders, whether information is shared through regional IFCs, whether information is shared through online platforms. And this session we're going to be talking about a quite different way of sharing information. It comes from some incidents that Admiral Perera, when he was Chief of Navy in Sri Lanka, coordinated some operations and shared information by really quite less formal means with regional colleagues with a very successful outcome. So Admiral Perera, I'll let you take it from here to discuss this case study.
Thank you, Dr. David, for that introduction. So this is once again storytelling, and I'm going to be more detailed onto one event that Rohit mentioned before. Thanks for leaving it, for me to expand on it. But this is, as Dr. David said, a phenomenal and quite groundbreaking event in the recent time, where the information sharing has brought up an immense success in operation between three countries, where Sri Lanka had the intelligence and we shared it with India and Maldives, and both countries were able to achieve success in seizing and arresting the perpetrators. So once again, this event that Rohit mentioned is of going after drug transporters, and where Sri Lanka Navy, our operatives were able to come up with very reliable information and then developed it to see that this is going to happen. The fact that it was also with the arrest of previously 2 more vessels that the information came that the vessels are at sea expecting another huge delivery, and then the surveillance capabilities and MDA capabilities that we have on our hand made it possible to trace it to certain extent, and then it went blind. So that is the interesting case that, how to progress from there. The decision to share it with our partners and to reach this. Now, again, it is important, like as David said, we don't have, we have very close relationship, partnership at the leadership level, connectivity. But on this kind of operations, there are no such written agreement, MOUs, nothing like that. Occasionally, ad hoc basis, things are happening. So, apart from the storytelling side of this, we're also going to look at what make the decision possible to share it with the other partners and bring the success. We need to look at the geographical basis of this. What it shows on the right side of that is the practice of narcotic deliveries from the Mekran coast. Now, very clear and observation on this is during the south west monsoons, the deliveries drastically drops down. On this side of the Indian Ocean, like the west coast of the Indian Ocean, Maldives, Sri Lanka, because of the severity of the sea conditions, those dhows that come from Chabha and all these places, when you look at the Iranian border and the Pakistani border, the few fisheries harbors on the Iranian side, Konarak, Chabahar, these are the places that these transporters depart from and then pick the drugs from the Mekran coast takeaway points and then dispatch all the way down. So importantly, you see a dry period during the monsoonal seasons, and the operations again start increasing somewhere around late September or mid-September, and then goes off until the next year's May, June. Right now we are on the season. Now we are going to talk about an incident exactly a year before. 19th September was the time that we lost the contact, and today is 18th. So if you look at it, it's exactly 1 day less than a year. So let's look at the timeline of the events. The two of but I mentioned the previous arrest. Two vessels arrested out at sea, not far away on the high seas, but about 100 nautical miles from Sri Lanka. Both were carrying 44 kilograms of amphetamines in months. The other one, some 66. Altogether, it's about like 100 kilos of narcotics. Now, this was surprisingly low. Usually, you get the transporters that comes from Iran side, it carries over 2,000, 3,000 kilos and then, engage in deliveries. So usually the lowest amount could be something like 300 kilos. So that shows there are other vessels available or out there at sea. RV the transporters and took narcotics on board. That was on the 13th and 16th of, as you can see, where the previous vessels, the fishing vessels, the Sri Lankan fishing vessels were arrested. Now, these people had the solid information to say there are other vessels engaging in the narcotic transaction. So, our operatives, they went on with all the ground informations and developing into intelligence, and then realized the three vessels that are mentioned was also in our suspected list. Now our naval intelligence, we maintain a list of vessels and the people that have the previous involved in previous incidents or known to be people who are engaging in narcotic trafficking. So these 3 boats, Pramithaputa, Manuka, and the other one was Ashen Puta. So these vessels were in that list. And then subsequently, when they're checking on the VMS, the vessel monitoring system, the trail, they're shown the origin, the Coast Guard has the records of their departure, and up to certain extent, their track was visible, and then thereafter gone blind. Intermittently, the blips came indicating their position, so they were loitering some 100 nautical miles off the Maldivian coast in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Now, we were also monitoring, we were probably thinking at the time that the transaction had not happened, and they were just loitering until the transaction is completed. On the 19th, the intermittent indication of the position that came, that also ceased, came to a stop, and our operatives just went blind. And I'm not advertising on Greg's skylight, but the last position came from the skylight. The odd emission that took place from Manuka, one of the fishing vessels, indicated that they have moved about another 25 to 30 nautical miles north of the original position, which gave us a direction of movement as well. On the other hand, the Ashen Puta, it was further south, so the last point of losing the track was about, that was close to the Maldivian EEZ, but still about some 250 nautical miles away. Now, our issue was what to do. Now we know 95% that there is a drug transaction is in progress. To me, to the Navy and the Ministry, went to sail our assets to do the intercept. Now you are looking at, because you lost your target indication, and there is a huge area for you to search. So departure from Sri Lanka with one of our advanced offshore petrol vessel, the time to reach the datum and then to progress thereon, and then also you see that one is on a southern move, the other on a northerly move towards, and also the pattern analysis shows us their previous practice, that they've been usually fishing about 500 nautical miles the west of the Indian EEZ. So we had to decide on, and we know that this is 95% possible track, and then only means of action is to reach our partners. So we had the connectivity, immediately once we decide, and there was also the government as far as the narcotic interdiction are concerned. I was given free hand of operations as the commander of the Navy to decide on, without asking permission from the ministry, the secretaries, or any of them, just to dispatch, go on active, and then report them once the success is hit. So whenever that we brought down, once we get a catch, we inform the ministry, okay, there have been a success. This is the amount of narcotics that we have caught. So in that sense, immediately we went through the Indian ILO's one. Commander Vijay Singh was the ILO at the time. He quickly coordinated with the IFC IOR and reaching the other stations with that connectivity. At the same time, we again connected through the defense attaché to the Indian Navy, and then the Combined Maritime Force, And also we had connectivity with the direct connections with the Maldivian authority. Information was dispatched. And then to the finer point of, what's the datum in area. And then the coordination through the IFC IOR, fine event that took place, P8 was flew out to locate this around 550 nautical miles west of Kochi. The first vessel was located, Pramitaputa. And then the other vessel was also picked up, and then the Indian Navy sailed one of their assets for the interdiction. Now the question comes, you are in the high seas. This is not the Indian jurisdiction, it's a high seas operation. But then we know, for a government vessel, we have the ability to board a vessel just to check on its documents and, Article 110, that what gives. So, we requested Indian Navy to, board it and see, what's on board. They boarded so as the slides indicates, on the 24th, the entire day, the first day visited Pramitaputa. The drugs was not on board, but they inquired on them, and then went to the other boat, Manuka, and it was observed, as they were approaching, the drugs were dumped into the ocean. So that was assumed. About 500 kilos of drugs which are recovered at the time. And the interrogation. Now, the other issues, now how to do the arrest. It's high seas, it's not the Indian jurisdictions, that right of visit was given, but now it's a case of Perera and was a right of arrest. So, what we did from the Navy headquarters is verbally we gave the flag state consent for them to arrest the vessel. And meanwhile, we informed the Ministry of Defense, and through the Foreign Ministry, we got the Indian Navy given a proper formal flag state consent to board and arrest. And then decide on the RVing at certain location to transfer the vessel onto the Sri Lanka Navy sand. Now, I was talking about the decisions, why it is important to see that is why this bit of a short analysis is done to realize what options that we had at the time. So one, I'll just quickly go through each of them as it is. So on the strength, highly experienced owned operatives who are well versed with the network, sea operations and MDA analysis. That is the intelligent analysis for us to have in our hand the information to stay the other operatives, to say the partners, the India and the Maldives, that this is 95% certain drug transaction. Commitment of the regional partner. This is the responsibility. This is, as the operatives, that's what Mahasagar is about. This is what on the other side, this is what all the Combined Maritime Force is about. This is why the UK or the EU NAVFORCE Atlanta is about. Our common responsibility. So that commitment is there to strike on this. The operation relationship with India and the Maldivian National Defense Force and their Coast Guard was really good for us to work with. Then realizing that we don't have the assets, the capacity, but Indian Navy has the capacity, its ISR capacity, the long range maritime patrol to reach the distance, and as it proved at the end, to locate the vessel. So that was a strength. The MDA coordination strength of IFC IOR was also looked at, who did the superb job in that. And then the MDA capacity of SLN and deployment of deployment readiness. We were also ready in case that everything failed, to sail vessels. Then, as I mentioned, the government has left us to make our independent decisions on this kind of operations. On the opportunity side, we have reliable and multiple information through various sources. Then that information is converted into intel by the analysis through the MDA, the NDA access that we had. We have the vessel monitoring systems I mentioned yesterday. The out of 5,000 high seas fishing fleet that we have in Sri Lanka, over 4,000, almost 600 of them are now fixed with vessel monitoring system. And then the skylight, the sea vision, also the marine traffic, all the facilities that are available with us is also looking at the opportunities. And then analysis, the telltale pattern of the previous fishing practices of these three boats, how they have been fishing in the northern grounds, and the other one is practically been engaging in more towards the Maldives side. So when we lost the PIP, and then we assessed that when two vessels are moving northward, that they are going to be their formal fishing area. So that was in support of the Indian side for them to look at. Of course, on the weakness side, the time space calculation, because for us it is difficult to be active right on time. And then the huge area of, the calculations shows that, once you start from the datum, it's a huge area of search. Without proper assets, you can't do that. I'm talking about our weaknesses. And, we don't have the long-range maritime petrels and the ISR assets to do that. Lack of efficiency in littoral deployment in view of high density. And again, if we thought of like waiting, it's a months of painful waiting, and still you're going to miss, because once they're back, you lost the initial detections, and it will take months. By that time you don't know where they are, and whether they have transferred these drugs from their vessel to others. And then we had in our hand the new information that once they get the load of drugs, that they transfer that into other vessels in smaller quantities, which a new observation that we did with the previous arrest on the 13th and 16th of November. And traceability issues when continuing as a dark vessel. So once, if you lose this, that, it's, as I mentioned, it could be a month of waiting, and then, possibility of losing it. Then uncertainty over repetitive transfer, which I mentioned about, transferring into other boats with smaller quantities. So those were the conditions that we had to look at, quickly decide on requesting assistance from the partners. And obviously, it's worked up to a very good outcome. So on the Indian side, as I mentioned briefly earlier, the response, once the P8 detected them, the OPV was sailed out, and then, they intercepted first one and got the information from the fishermen on that vessels, went to the other boat, and then they observed the drugs being dumped outside of the vessel, and then collected all that, arrested the vessel. So those were the action by the Indian side. And I was little descriptive on the Maldivian operation. So the third vessel, which was called the Ashen Puta, was of the Maldivian Coast Guard when the last known position, at the last known position. So, but on the plus side, this vessel contacted some of the Maldivian fishermen also, and asked some assistance from them about the water and food stuff. So these fishing vessels quickly informed the Maldivian authority that there is a vessel. So apparently they also had a battery blast on board and some damages and injuries as well. So when that message came to the Maldivian authorities, they were also informed by us about the vessel. So we quickly confirmed them that they have to interdict and arrest. It was still moving. The vessel was moving. They came much closer, and when they came closer, almost near to their territorial sea, this was escorted down to the Maldivian island near was it Munduttu Island? Yes. So then we confirmed that there are no visible narcotics on board, as obviously it was hidden. But then we confirmed that the narcotics are on board. So the vessel was brought near coastal, went on board, searched for it, and found almost 400 kilos of amphetamines and heroin. So that's the so more actions afterward in both cases. The Indian arrest, we received the vessel, but in the Maldivian case, it was so they encouragingly allowed us to come and speak to these people, interrogate them, and generate more information. So on the other hand, so much of collaborative actions that took place after that. Now, that was the storytelling and the decision making. But another concern about this is maintaining the chain of custody. Now, once the Indian arrest was made, now we had the questions about the person. Now, yesterday Ramos and the rest discussed about the legal finish of this kind of arrest. Now, important fact is in that burden of proof is the chain of custody, because here a case that the Sri Lankan courts are very particular that you have to absolutely be clear about the chain of custody. Now, we cannot bring, for obvious reasons, we cannot bring the Indian authorities to our courts to engage in this prosecution action. We had to discuss this with the Attorney General Department, and then when the Sri Lankan vessel sailed to RV the Indians and get the arrested boats, we took police, the Sri Lankan police, narcotic bureau personnel with us, so that all those evidence were taken then and there, right according to the chain of custody procedures, and brought the vessel to Sri Lanka. So it is important. This is one of the key issues because there is no point of arresting and then seizing the narcotics unless that you terminate in nicely. We have bad experience of losing one of the case, a case which was about 300 kilos of narcotics, and the lawyers that come against defending these perpetrators are highly paid and experts on the subjects. They will go for the slightest loophole in defeating the government case on this. So we lost a case previously. We have learned out of it and about the technical procedures. So we were very, very concerned about the procedures. Right. So that was about the whole event. So in the conclusion, what I can say, this was, as I mentioned, started at the beginning, a very groundbreaking, a phenomenal case where a timely sharing of information brought up results, and also the ability to connect through so quickly with the right information given to the proper persons, so that they can engage quickly. So you can see the 4 bullets: the value of intelligence sharing, the force multiplying effect of technological integration, the power of real-time operational communication, and the necessity of regional partnerships in countering transnational crime. The Sri Lanka Navy remains fully committed to enhancing its operational capability and strengthening cooperation with regional and international partners to ensure secure maritime. This is just one single case that proved successful. But beyond that, there are many others. Even recently, we have shared information with Bangladesh Navy about the arrest of another fishing vessels, which had a very peculiar, suspicious pattern of arriving at the Bangladeshi exclusive economic zones. There have been actions that we responded quickly in, coordinating with the Australian authorities, the Australian SAR region, when one of the Chinese fishing vessels have capsized. So we were the nearby, still it was about 800 nautical miles. We sailed from Sri Lanka with our diving teams, and to give the possible assistance, we did the complete investigation of the upturned vessel. And then Lorenzo Puta was mentioned again about a very, very close coordination with the IFC, IOR, and then the Seychelles authorities. Again, the connectivity proves very well because our connectivity with the Chief of Defense Staff of the Seychelles. So these are, how best that we are sharing information right now for better action. Thank you very much.
Is that working? Yeah, great. Oh, so look, that's a fantastic story, Admiral, and thanks very much for sharing that with us. Just to try and put that into a little bit of context, I see that story, that incident, really as part of what Corinne Buzard's question in the last session about, okay, you got this information sharing, but what about the assets and response? And this, the story of this incident is a great reminder that information sharing is just part of a continuum of necessary cooperation, which includes information sharing, information collection, analysis, intelligence, information sharing, decision making, response, and then the legal finish. And often that has to be coordinated with multiple countries, and including where the threat involves multiple maritime jurisdictions. So we saw in this case information, not only information sharing among the three countries, but also coordination of follow-up surveillance and then response by the three countries. And so I think it's a great reminder that when we're thinking about these arrangements, we can't just stop at information sharing. We have to think about, well, what's the next steps in terms of coordinating operational responses and then coordinating perhaps legal legal action as well. So thank you again, Admiral, for this sort of quite fascinating story of this incident. I'll open the floor to questions. Yes, sorry, over here. Professor.
Professor Ashraf from Dhaka University. I'm not a big fan of MDA, but because of these, my long-standing academic interest in intelligence sharing and my, again, academic interest on transnational crime and terrorism has brought me into this domain, and I thank you, David and BIMRAD, for having me here. Excellent, very informative presentation, and also very nice summary by David that information sharing is part of a continuum that leads to decision making, effective ops and coordination. Question to the speaker. Does the intelligence sharing on, let's say, anti-narcotics operations in the case of Sri Lanka only narrowly focus on operational intel sharing for interdiction of criminal offenses or in your area of jurisdiction, or you also do long-term threat assessment? That's one question. And the second question is there any evidence of the LTTE or any other non-state actors, especially terrorist actors, in Sri Lanka or the neighboring countries, do they have reliance on a portion of the drugs money for operational purposes? Third question is related to what you said, that when drugs are seized, that's not the end of the story, because then the next stage is criminal investigation leading towards prosecution of the offenders. And here comes the tricky part, because often, based on a conversation with a judge in Bangladesh last week, I was trying to understand what happens next. And what I hear is that most often the cases become weakened not just by the high-paid lawyers rescuing their clients, but because the seized materials are not handled in a technical and proper way. Because when they are sent to the labs for chemical and forensic investigation, often those are found to be not in a good shape, to be detecting the substance of the crime. That's one problem. Second problem is that when something is seized in a PO, place of occurrence, or in a crime scene, judges require the signature of the witness in a different envelope. So my question is, you are doing a fantastic job in the maritime area seizing the contraband materials, but when you are handing it over to, do you hand it over to the anti-narcotics national department?
Yes.
And
Yes.
perhaps they hand it over to the law enforcers, right?
Yes.
So how much interagency coordination do you have? And how much of you learn or there is an effort by the other parties, the end users in this case, that these materials should be properly handled and part of the samples should be separated for sent to the chemical labs, etc., etc. And my another question.
Well, could we just
Just
perhaps just hold off on the last question to
Sure.
let
We will discuss later. Yes.
Admiral
Sure.
answer
I'll
those questions.
chat with you on the
Yeah.
fourth questions that you want to ask me about.
Thank
Yes, to start with, yes, there are a lot more engagement, like, the joint operations, the exercises that we work with the regional partners, the extra-regional partners, on all these aspects and the procedures. But, as I mentioned, these, in most cases, with us, like, we don't have proper MOUs as to, immediately share information on, but it still happens, like, some of these information on other aspects, even the security concerns, the country share with the others, looking at the relevancy of that, for example, the bomb attack on 2019, they had some information immediately passed. So it is happening, but, there is no such MOUs that we each other obligated to share with. But this is a proof that when it comes to operational level, that at our level, we can coordinate and bring success. The second question about
and you were very much relying on personal relationships in many cases with your counterparts,
yes,
right?
that was an added case on with me. Then secondly, the LTTE, the presence of LTTE in the current day, I don't think it is there, but back some the 30 years protracted conflict that we faced, obviously LTT had heavily engaged in narco trafficking, human smuggling, as well as the arms smuggling, but not anymore. But they trend the set to the other countries also to follow up on their practices, right? Thirdly, the important point about the legal finish. Yes, that is the most important. There is no point of we doing smart operation outside in the ocean, bring them, and ultimately if they escapes out of this, so we have to, and every time the officer in charge, commanding officers are changed, they go through these training processes during their command programs about the handling of evidence. It is very critical. They've been informed by the Attorney General's departments, how to handle these things properly, because we learn it in the hard way. And The other thing, the 2023, we were able to revise the 1988 Narcotic Act, bringing up with the minister's regulations. Once you arrest these drugs, seize these drugs, immediately within short period of time, once the samples are taken and sent to the government analysis, to destroy rest of the volume. This is important because otherwise it's leaked out from various places that they're kept, right? So we now have the regulations properly done. So the magistrate in whose course the case is run, he will go to the incinerator. We build an incinerator for the purpose itself in the northwestern part of the country, where they go and burn these things. So there is no large hole of drug remains until the end of the case, because it takes time. Now this particular case, it is still in the B reports have given and still pending. It takes years to terminate the cases. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I think I'm getting the wind up from Captain Bateman, so I don't dare to disobey that. Thank you very much again, Admiral. I think that was a really interesting reminder that in these sorts of workshops we can't just stop at talking about MDA. We've got to look at the whole process, including operational and legal coordination among partner countries. So thank you again, sir.
Okay, ladies and gents, lunchtime. So if we could be back seated at 1:05 p.m. For session 10, which is Anthony Bergen again and his A team from the Maritime Border Command. So we'll see you at 13:05.